Hi, I'm Derek Garcia.
First question, do you consider yourself as a comic book reader?
Yeah.
How long have you been reading comics?
I've been reading it about since I was in sixth grade. My dad gave me my first comic, and I didn't read more until high school.
What type of comics do you read?
DC, mostly DC. I have a couple of Marvel comics, but mostly DC. I have a collection.
What type of genre would you read?
Can you explain genre?
It could be superheroes, it could be romance, it could be...
Nah, yeah, superheroes. Cause I'm a comic book artist and I like drawing superheroes.
Right. How many issues or comics or series have you read?
I have volumes. I don't collect. Oh, well, I have some issues, but I mostly collect by volumes. And in each volume, I think there's 5 issues. So I have about, I think like 11 times 5, like 55 plus like a couple of the new issues I got.
What are your thoughts on over-sexualized female characters in the comic books?
I think it is a little skimpy because even when I draw females, it feels a little weird drawing them with, less clothing and yeah, I would say like I would have more respect for women. Yeah.
Where do you notice where this is mostly used?
Can you define that?
Like, what kind of type of comics, or where do you really notice where they mostly over-sexualized?
I know Psylocke from X-Men. Her outfit is pretty skimpy. Catwoman, like film and games, mostly games too. Like you'll see that a lot, and all around comics, like everyone has it. Like I could name a couple. Talia al Ghul, Wonder Woman, the Cheetah, and all of Marvel, She-Hulk, yeah, Captain Marvel especially. Like some of her outfits are like, wow.
Alright, does this bother you in any way?
Kinda. I mean, at first no. Like I'm gonna be honest. Like at first I didn't really like notice it. As a child, I'm like, well, she's pretty, but getting older now, it's kind of weird.
And as you said, you're an artist. What would you change about that?
Okay. First off, let's be realistic. Who would want to go in the battlefield wearing just like a bikini? Like gotta wear armor. I would change that. Like like realistically, what would they wear?
What do you think comics are able to release this type of work?
I'm sorry.
Like, why do you think it's allowed? Like, what do you think? Why don't you think?
I think it's because it's appealing. Sex sells. So, a lot of teenagers, boys, they're gonna want to read this. I don't know if, like how females feel about this, but a lot of men, children, boys, teenagers, they like to see eye candy. So.
All right. I think that's it. Thank you.
Oh yeah, no problem.
I'm Orlando Hernandez.
All right, first question: do you consider yourself as a gamer?
Yeah, I do. Very much so.
All right. How long have you been playing games?
Maybe since 5 years old. Maybe since 5 years old.
What type of games do you play?
Mostly the single player story based games.
How many hours a week would you think you play?
Depending on what I'm doing during the week, maybe less than 6. Or maybe just 6.
Okay, what are your thoughts on like over-sexualized female characters in video games?
They kind of are like really distracting and feel unnecessary sometimes.
What type of genre of games do you mostly see this happen?
Mostly like in the like JRPG and single player games.
Does this any way bother you?
Well, it kind of does, but since I don't play those games enough, I don't really feel anything since I don't play those games enough. But they kind of do bother me a little bit.
What do you want to see different?
I would like to see them maybe like portray the female characters a little bit more better. Kind of make them seem like a useful member of the guild or team or whatever to the main character or to the party or whatever.
Why do you think games let this go, be able to process this through, and be able to sell?
What was that?
Like, okay. Why do you think games let this like pass? Like,
Oh, like why they let things like sexualized characters
yeah,
pass in the final release? No idea. I mean, like whatever the characters are gonna look like or what they're gonna, seem or behave like is really up to the developers. But maybe it has to do with targeting a certain demographic, probably.
Thank you.
Man, nice.
And do you think comics have always been like this?
I feel like in the beginning, like when they first started making comics, they didn't reveal as much. But I think as time progressed, new styles and everything started coming up with revealing a little bit more and more, and they noticed how much they got away with it, and now it's becoming a little bit of a problem.
Do you think all women in comics are portrayed like this?
Not all of them. Some of them are portrayed as damsels in distress. Some of them are more heroine. But most of the time, when you put a match with a man character and a female character, the man character is mostly the one to win. Yeah.
Do you think men are also portrayed over-sexualized in characters in comics?
Kinda, yeah. I feel like a lot of spandex, revealing a lot of muscle tones that you probably wouldn't be able to see. But I don't know. Yeah, I think so.
Does that bother you?
Not as much as women, to be honest. Yeah.
What do you think? So.
I think it's because as men we're more comfortable with our own bodies, but then we see females' body, we're like ooh la la, when we see it.
Hello, I'm Gina Soto, and I will be the voice interpreter for Melissa Kinney. She will be asking me questions, and I will first voice the questions, and then I will personally answer them myself. The first question. Today we are going to discuss the topic of Men's Health Magazine and Women's Health Magazine. Are you familiar with Men's Health Magazine and Women's Health Magazine? Yes, I'm familiar with both magazines. I recently purchased them, and I purchased them in the past. Now I think they're available online, that's helpful. I don't buy them all the time, but if I need to, I will. Second question. What are some comparisons you notice from those two magazines with men versus women? Obvious comparisons would be the amount of clothing women wear. On the covers, I think it's not realistic to most women's bodies, especially with my age being in my late 20s. I don't think that's a good representation of women compared to the men. They're more depicted as being strong, and their facial expressions are more positive. Women are always trying to look sexy with their hands on their face or the hair done up, when it's supposed to be a fitness magazine and health magazine as well. The third question. You as a woman feel like the women's magazine represents women and women's issues? I do not think it represents women. I don't think it represents women's issues at all. For some of them, yes, but I think they can go deeper into what women issues are really about. Depending on the audience, I think they need to be more inclusive of different demographics. I think they don't represent what real women look like, their body types and their struggles with fitness and weight, and they need to include more. Last question. What are some things that you would change of the gender roles of Women in Women's Health magazine? I would think they need to change by first offering more voices of different groups of women to really spread body positivity. I think that's catching on now, and having more women of color in the magazine. I think, especially with the clothing with women, I don't think a lot of women wear that to the gym. I think it's kind of odd that they are always in sports bras and tight shorts on the cover or inside the magazines. It's not how I would personally work out like that. It's not who I am, but I think they just need to represent more women, and the gender roles are kind of outdated with how they look like, and we need to show women in a different light. I think it's really important, especially for the next generation. Most women I know probably wouldn't buy this magazine personally because it's not showing them on the cover. It's showing this thin model that probably eats a banana. So I think that's about it.
All right, so in the movie industry, there's a lot of controversy between men and women and how they're viewed. Do you think they're viewed like exactly the same, or some more sexual, as in like women wearing more provocative clothing and men wearing less clothing, such as like how in Thor he wears a shirt, he doesn't wear a lot of shirts. Most times he's just rocking his six pack.
Oh, like I noticed that when it comes to movies like those, of course, the creators are gonna want to try to pander it to all kinds of audiences. However, not in the same way. It was like just like you said, like some will make the main actors like topless just to get the attention of to get the attention of females, whereas for guys they'll try to get something they'll try to get their female actor to dress more provocative because basically like as someone told me like sex sells where if you find an appeal to someone from the where you find an appeal to someone like you're more likely to either buy something for that or buy something because of that.
All right. Now when it comes to like action, like horror films, do you think that what they're doing, as in like how they always have teens having sex, or uh, the women are always in bikinis and always seem to be doing not the right things at the right times, and as in like male, all you see in male in horror films are like either druggies or potheads or some kind of crazy shenanigans.
I don't know when the way I see those, I feel like that our society's already used to those becoming a conventional norms that they're just plastered on without reason for most of those types of for that genre of videos. Because like in every horror film, you'll find at least at least one archetype of character just throughout the whole for the whole movie. Unlike like certain other movies where it's like even even the movies where it's just a parody of the like horror films, like they nail that so well that like yeah that's what they consider the norms because especially like scary movie they'll consider like the white blonde girl a blonde white girl to be dumb like clueless and not knowing what they do, even though I feel like they should change like they should at least make it more realistic even though that make the movie boring in general, at least they get the idea of what they're trying to do.
And last question. Now, if you have seen movies that are like specifically for women and always in some kind of way they're always the same thing, it's about a girl or woman always trying to go after a man or trying to, how could I put this? Basically, they're trying to
win over a guy.
Yeah, win over a guy, trying to be a better person, some kind of way. Always like some kind of love story, or some kind of like they getting raped or that kind of culture. Is but then they have male movies where it's always the men are always on top. The men just fighting to get on top. The men try to overconquer some kind of little fear, some kind of like weakness. Overall, they're just always like, um, they're always trying to be a better person per se. No, why is it? Do you know? Can you give an example why it should why it's like that or?
Oh, much like what I said, like on the from the last question, that it's been a conventional norm now that like, uh, especially when they consider like pink is for only girls, blue is for only boys, when in fact, like a couple of decades ago, it used to be the opposite, where pink was viewed as a strong color for boys and blue was considered as a soft color appropriate for females. And I feel like that applies to also the gender specific movies, like the love stories for females, and then like some action, like just explosion movies for males, in which like that I feel like they could just integrate them a little bit, because like not every female's like that, and not every guy is like that. In fact, like there's some females that are actually like more kick-ass than certain guys, and there's some guys that are more sensitive than other girls, and that's something I feel like what they do now just is too overused, it's too saturated.
All right. Last question. I know I said it last question before, but I just want to make this last question for sure. Do you think the movie industry is getting better in some sort of way, whether it's action, thriller, horror, uh, just any genre like romance or whatever?
Oh yeah, I feel like the movie industry is improving. I mean, it's just like the movie industry is just like every other form of media. Like there's always room for improvement, and each media is about the creators trying to get their point across to the audience. Whether it's like a story, whether it's the visuals. Like I feel like there's doesn't matter what kind of format it is. There's always going to be room for improvement, because sure, like they might be able to, sure, a movie might get a like a high score rating, like a 9 out of 10, but that means they can still improve. Just because they get a 10 out of 10 doesn't mean they can't prove or they won't prove.
All right. Well, that's it.
Hello, everybody. So today we're here interviewing with my good friend Charlene. I'm saying it right.
Yeah.
Hernandez.
Yeah.
And I'm your host, Alex Fields. So today I'm going to be asking a few questions. Right now, the entertainment industry is really big, and a lot of people are big into fashion and media. How do you feel when you see things on TV, such as, I know there was a commercial with Carl's Jr. There's a woman in a bathing suit. She's in a two-piece bathing suit, and she's eating a sandwich. Like, when you see stuff like that, what does that make you think, like, when you market that?
To me, it usually makes me think like that's just them like trying to get entertainment from like men more, because I think it gets attracted from men than it does from women. If that makes sense.
Okay. Do you believe, like what a lot of people say, they say that in the entertainment market that sex sells?
Sorta, yeah, I guess you can say that.
But how does that make you feel as a woman?
I feel like I think it's too much overboard and over revealing to just have a woman in a bikini just to eat a burger and sell that burger. I think there's better ways of selling it off than having a woman be in a bikini showing half of her body.
Exactly. And then like in a lot of movies you'll also see stuff like, I believe it was Dukes of Hazzard or something with Jessica Simpson, where you see women in like Daisy Dukes and they're washing men's cars and stuff like that. a lot of women and a lot of men too will also say and comment and say that that's very sexist towards women.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it is. I feel like there's better ways for women to put themselves out there than showing their body, because I feel like there's more to a woman than just her body, if that makes sense.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And what is it that you do?
What is it that I do here?
Yeah, like what is your major here?
Fashion designer.
Fashion design. Now, as far as that market, like what do you want to do with that once you graduate?
I want to design clothes that make women feel beautiful inside and out.
Without too much revealing of
Yeah.
clothes and feel sexy. That's good. That's good because you don't get that a lot. Like I say, because of the Hollywood and LA entertainment industry, you'll see that a lot. Like,
Yeah.
That's a norm, and it's not a big thing. There's some women they'll like, okay, I'll do this, I'll show a little skin, I'll do this to make a quick buck.
Mhm.
But a lot of women will say they'll disagree with that and say, you know what, no, I'm gonna be independent. I'm gonna make my own mark. I don't have to show too much revealing clothing
Yeah.
and things like that to get a name.
Mhm.
And that's good. That's good that you
Yeah.
you can see that. So there's one more question I want to ask you too before we wrap it up.
Okay.
One of the big things was, do you watch soccer?
Not
You're
really.
not into sports. Okay, there are a lot of women that are into sports, and USA Soccer is a very big one. Now, for the women's USA Soccer team, they are doing really well right now. I don't know if you've seen the stats or whatever. I'm not really sure what the stats are, but right now they're doing really well. And sometimes they tend to do better than the men's soccer teams,
Oh,
which is really a trip. And
Yeah.
but the thing with that is because it's an issue because a lot of women feel that the women's soccer team they're not getting enough press. They're not getting enough. They don't get paid as much as the men do. They don't get as much coverage and footage. They're not on YouTube. But yet the men's soccer team, they don't win as many games as the women, but they still get more press and footage. What do you think about that?
I feel like men and women should not feel like it's a competition. Like, I know women do feel like it's competition with men because they feel like men have more rights and stuff. I feel like they should just feel equal. They shouldn't have to feel like they're competition to each other just because soccer's more out there for men than it is for women. I feel like it's all the same.
Right. But what do you feel? But soccer is a competitive sport. That's like one
Yeah,
of the biggest.
basically.
What do you feel about as far as the pay grade? Because that's another issue. Men's soccer team tends to make more money than the women's, and I mean just keep that in mind. Now, mind you, the women's soccer, they're winning most of their games, but the men's soccer team isn't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that for some women, they would say that that's definitely unfair, which I definitely agree to. That is unfair. It should be equal. Even though it's a competition type of sport. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't really know how I feel about that.
Do you watch soccer or you're not?
Not really. I'm more of a football person.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
like
football's
football.
my thing too. I like that.
And basketball.
Well, yeah.
I was like in basketball.
Yeah. I think that's going to be all the questions though. Well,
All
thank
right.
you for giving us your feedback and your input. Again, everyone, this is say your name again.
Charlene.
Charlene Hernandez, and I'm your host Alex Fields, and thank you guys for tuning in.